Welcome back, everybody, to the video. Today we are back for the NFL video. Today we're going to be doing all the team predictions for the entire NFC North division. Originally I wanted to get this video out a couple days ago, but honestly, just kind of pushed it back. Did a Madden 23 pack opening video. Now we have this one out. So I want to say the next one is going to be the AFC South, and that will be probably 3-4 days from now. Madden 24 is coming out in a couple days. So I'm doing videos on that going forward, along with these NFL videos, still doing these week picks and the season's going on, all that kind of stuff. So if you guys didn't see my AFC North prediction video for this, all you need to know is that first off, the teams I go in order is like not my rankings, like I'm just doing it kind of randomly. But as far as my like AFC North video goes, I kind of just did it like out of order as far as like my rankings. So like just I'm starting with the Packers. Doesn't mean I have them going first in the division. I'll have my rankings at the end. I just kind of doing it in random order just to kind of shake things up and all that kind of stuff. And I'm doing that the same way for this video. So just because I'm doing the Packers right now does not mean I have them in first. I will have the timestamps in the description, and I pinned comment for each team. So if you're a Vikings fan, don't care about the Packers. Just go down, click on the timestamp, and it'll go right to your team, and yes, and so on. So starting out though with the Packers. Now I'm gonna format this pretty similarly to how I did the AFC North videos. As far as kind of going over the players, quick kind of recap from last year, then going into this year, we'll talk over kind of depth chart stuff, coaching, schedule, all that kind of stuff. So first off, a big kind of, piece of this that Aaron Rodgers is not on the team anymore. I did a Jordan Love video going over kind of what this year could look like for him as far as that goes. So if you didn't see that, you can go check that out as well. But Aaron Jones, 1,121 yards last year. Allen Lazard, once again, he's also not on the team anymore. Quay Walker, I am going to highlight him a little bit. And of course, Jair Alexander, one of the better corners in all of football. So of course, Rodgers and Lazard are gone. So I guess kind of looking at it for this year, it's going to be looking like, Jordan Love and Christian Watson in their places. But last year, the Packers had kind of a just different year, considering Aaron Rodgers was there. It wasn't the most successful year, and it just kind of seemed like that was kind of the last straw for both sides as far as the Packers and Rodgers go. So you now have Jordan Love, a lot of exciting things. At the time of recording this, they just played the Bengals last night, and you did win that. You showed some flashes. I'll be talking over that in just a moment. But again, I mean, a lot of the guys, I mean, you did lose Rodgers, you did lose Lazard, but you have guys returning still, like Aaron Jones, like A.J. Dillon. You now have Christian Watson going to his second year. You draft Luke Musgrave. So, yeah, you lose Rodgers, but it just kind of seems like it's the right time to move on from that. And you still have some pretty good skill guys returning, so I don't think you lost. I mean, you didn't lose a bunch of guys that, like, you really need back. It's just that the biggest position on your offense, which is quarterback, is just such a big question mark, and that's why it's such a kind of up in the air as far as everything goes like that. But as far as the rest of the team goes, I still like the Packers offense. I think they have some very reliable guys like Aaron Jones, like A.J. Dillon. I think Christian Watson is one of the better young players, assuming he builds off what he did last year. Romeo Doubs still, and all that kind of stuff. So again, Packers season last year wasn't the craziest, but going into this year, we're going to go over to the depth chart and kind of look at this a little bit more and talk about that preseason game as well. So Jordan Love, Aaron Jones, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, also had A.J. Dillon back there too, and then of course Luke Musgrave, like I mentioned. So let's start with the preseason game, and that's kind of a benefit of doing this while the preseason games are going on, because I can actually talk about some of those preseason games. And so Jordan Love, he had a very deep pass attempt to Christian Watson, which Dax Hill and the Bengals made a really good defensive play to break that pass up. I can't really tell if it was underthrown or not. It looks like a good pass to me. I think it was just good defense, honestly. Jordan Love later, though, did throw another bit of a kind of touch pass to, I think it was Romeo Doubs for a touchdown. And he did miss, I think, one pass across the middle, but overall, not too bad. And that is your starters. The Packers did play their starters yesterday. So Jordan Love, I don't think he looked that bad at all. Again, it's a small sample size, and you have to take preseason with a grain of salt. Really, in preseason, you want to look for like the big, like just some nice flashes of what they can still bring to the regular season. But when you're not playing against a starting NFL defense, it's like, you got to keep that in perspective. But still, Jordan Love did show some nice things. He gets the ball out pretty quickly. I think a couple times he may have taken too long, like making his reads. But as far as his throwing motion goes, he's a quick release. Like he can be pretty deadly as far as that goes. But yeah, so then other than that, Aaron Jones did his thing. I think he had a couple runs. I think A.J. Dillon had a run here or there. Doubs the touchdown. I don't think Watson had a catch. I could be wrong, but I know the deep pass was broken up, and I know a pass underneath was also broken up. I believe Musgrave had a catch as well. I don't know if Jaden Reed did anything, but all in all, it's a preseason game. I mean, it wasn't bad by any means. It wasn't, crazy by any means. But again, they didn't play their starters for too long. But that Jordan Love kind of era underway, and like I talked about in my video on Jordan Love, I do think he's going to be good. I don't know if it'll be his first full year starting. I think if he's able to kind of put things together, he has plenty of weapons. Like Christian Watson is a great young receiver. Aaron Jones is a great receiving back and just good running back in general. Same with A.J. Dillon, good running back. Romeo Dobbs is a pretty underrated receiver. I think he was projected to have a higher year than what he did last year. But still, we'll see how Jordan Love uses that. And then Luke Musgrave is a big draft for them at tight end. And he already looks to be pretty good in training camp and had a catch last night. So if Jordan Love can, really come out and show out, he has some weapons to help him out. And the Packers do have some, I would say, fairly high potential in that division. And we'll get there too. And then, of course, talking about the defense, you got Kenny Clark still, Devondre Campbell, Jair Alexander, obviously. Then, Darnell Savage and Rasul Douglas. But someone I want to highlight is Quay Walker. I think he's a big player to watch this year as far as, potential breakout season, just kind of like what he does in his second year. Like it said over here, I cannot remember what it had. Okay, I did not mean to do that. 121 tackles for Quay Walker. So, again, rookie year, not too bad at all. He is going to need to kind of continue to do that on defense because he could be probably their best linebacker for many years if he can play at that level. So, Quay Walker is someone I'm pretty excited about for that Packers defense, and I'm definitely be watching him. And then, again, other than that, you saw the big guys in that defense, like Jair, like Kenny Clark, like Devondre Campbell. So, I like the Packers defense. I want to say I ranked them in my B tier for my defensive tier list video. If you didn't see that, go check that out. And the Packers always have very solid defense. So again, I understand the Packers kind of question marks this year just because it's on Jordan Love. It really is going to depend on what this guy can do. And speaking of that, I do want to get to the schedule. So last video for the AFC North, I just kind of skimmed through and did kind of a rough projection win total for each team and stuff as far as the record goes, and I also accidentally predicted every single team to finish in the same place and record as last year. I did not mean to do that. I made sure not to do that for this video because I felt so dumb after doing that. That was just completely by chance. So for this video though, I do already kind of have it mapped out of what I think they're gonna have. I'm not gonna go game by game like I did last year, but I will highlight a few. In the end, I do have the Packers going 8-9. So Packers fans, I'm sure already heading to the comments right after I just said that. But hear me out, though, as far as how I can be wrong about that. Because, again, there's a lot of games that can go either way. And because the quarterback is just so questionable, I don't know what Jordan Love's going to do. No one knows what Jordan Love's going to do. A lot of these games where it looks like they could lose, they could win if Jordan Love is good. And I just, sometimes I kind of be pretty cautious about it and kind of just, maybe give the better team that I know is the better team the win, rather than kind of projecting super high for Jordan Love. But let's talk through some games here. So for the Bears, it's a very winnable game for the Packers, and so is the Falcons, and so is the Saints. I think Detroit will be tough, but I don't think it's impossible for them to win that. A game I think is going to be very tough is the Denver Broncos. That's a very good defense Jordan Love's going to be going up against. So again, that's one where it's that's very hard to predict right now. I mean, we'll be doing week picks as the season goes on, like I've said, but in the preseason predicting that, I have no idea. I don't know what Jordan Love's going to be like. I don't know how good that Denver, I know the Denver defense is going to be pretty good, but I don't know. My best guess, they give the Packers some problems there, and I think they will disrupt Jordan Love kind of the same way how it is for the Steelers there with a really good defense. I think the Giants can go either way. I think the Chiefs are probably a loss for the Packers. I think the Rams are a win for the Packers. Again, even the Chargers, that game, I don't really know where to go with that because that's going to really depend on how that Packers offense is playing. Because the Chargers defense, not too bad at all. But again, the Packers defense, not too bad at all. That might be a more of a back and forth, low scoring game if both defenses are kind of on at that game. But again, I don't know what Jordan Love's going to do. So again, a rough prediction for their record for me would be 8-9. But there are plenty of games here where you can easily disagree and make that 9-8. You can make that 10-7. I think 10-7 is probably, I'll say 10-7 is probably their ceiling in my opinion. I don't think they break that, but that's kind of an ideal year for me would be the Packers winning 10 games first year Jordan Love. I think that's kind of the most they'll win. If they break that, that's just already that's your Super Bowl. If Jordan Love can get 11 wins in his first full year starting with the Packers, that's absolutely huge. But I don't think it's gonna happen. I think it's gonna be more like 10 at the most. Personally, I have 8, but again, there's plenty of games here that can definitely go either way. So again, comment down below which of these games you think could really go either way, or maybe even your record prediction for the Packers. 8-9 is where I feel comfortable, but again, let me know if there's any upsets on here you think the Packers might be able to pull off, assuming Jordan Love's kind of killing at that point in the year. I think Chiefs, there's no way they win that in my opinion. Same, I want to say the Steelers just because of how good that defense is. But again, everything else I think can really go either way. Denver I think will be tough, but I don't know. So let me know down below what you kind of think as far as that goes. Like I kind of did for the AFC North teams, I kind of ended off each section with like some bold predictions for like 3 players basically. Also, I do want to mention before I get to that though, as far as the coaching goes for the Packers, I don't think it's as big of a talking point as it might be for other teams, just because a big piece of it is just Jordan Love. So I don't want to look like I skipped over that, but I just don't think it's a big thing to highlight as of right now, because in my opinion, the Packers are a fairly well-rounded team. It's just the big question mark at quarterback. So that's why I want to highlight Jordan Love so much and his impact, because in my opinion, that's what this year's going to hinge on more so than like the coaching and everything. So just want to make that clear. I'm not skipping over the coaching or anything, but I just don't see that that's a big thing to highlight. I kind of stick like that Jordan Love narrative, because I do think, and I think a lot of people think, that that's going to kind of make or break their season a little bit. So talking about kind of bold predictions for players here, I got to do it for Jordan Love. And then that's just kind of like, I have to do one for Jordan Love. So we'll say Jordan Love. Should we do yards or touchdowns or both? I'm thinking maybe like, I don't know, Rodgers threw for 3,695 last year. Let's say Jordan Love, bold prediction, like 3,500 yards and 20 touchdowns. First full year starting. I think that's pretty doable. We'll see if he gets that. I think it's definitely possible for him. Because, you got to remember, he's not like a first-year guy. I mean, I know he doesn't have a whole lot of experience, but he's had time to sit and develop and get kind of some, I mean, a lot of, I would hope, advice from Aaron Rodgers. So I'm going to predict that for Jordan Love. It's kind of like one of my bolder predictions. As another one, I kind of want to go either Christian Watson or Luke Musgrave. We'll say, hold on, I don't know how many touchdowns Robert Tonyan had. Tonyan had 2 touchdowns last year as a tight end. So let's say Musgrave 3 touchdowns as a rookie tight end. That would be pretty cool, honestly. Just breaking the last year's tight end record, that'd be kind of cool. Because I'm not sure how much I'll use him in the red zone. I'm interested to see like where he kind of fits into the whole offense. So we'll say 3 touchdowns for Luke Musgrave, and I got to go Quay Walker. We'll just say, I don't know, do we want to say like leads defense and tackles along with an interception? That could be kind of cool. I think I'm just going to go with that. Probably leads that defense in tackles, along with getting at least 1 interception this year. It'd be a big year for the second-year player. I would hope he at least can, I mean, I don't want to say I would hope, but I am pretty hopeful he can lead that defense in tackles. I think he's a very, very good young linebacker, so that's a guy I definitely want to highlight for sure. So yeah, that's probably my Packers prediction part, I would say, for this video. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I missed. I don't really think so, because in my opinion, Jordan Love, big thing to focus on. Christian Watson, huge young receiver. That defense is still super solid. Quay Walker, kind of the headline of that as far as like guys to watch, just because he could really break out. Then of course Luke Musgrave, and yeah, so that's kind of how I see the Packers season going. We're gonna say 8-9 for that record, but again, I'm sure you guys disagree. So let me know down below what you think as far as that goes. I'm not even sure who the next team's going to be, so we'll just cut to the next team, and yeah, we'll just go to that. All right, guys, so next team is the Vikings that I want to go over. Looking at their kind of top players from last year, now there are some pretty big changes, because Dalvin is now off the team, so is Eric Kendricks, and so is Patrick Peterson. This would be definitely a interesting year for the Vikings because of a lot of changes and stuff like that. They also have some teams kind of up and coming in that division. So first off, let's start with last year. Last year was a crazy year for the Vikings. I think they won, I want to say 10 plus games by like 1 score or something. So they came out on top a lot. I also want to say real quick that is not luck. I think you can get lucky a couple times doing that, but otherwise after that, I mean, it's a pattern of winning close games because you're that good of a team. You stay together. You make big plays down the stretch. That's kind of how that goes. So I don't want to have the narrative that they got lucky like 10 plus times for wins. I don't think that's the case. Maybe a couple times, but that's about it. So Kirk Cousins had a pretty good year last year. I know people were kind of talking about that check down to end their season was not the best read. But other than that, Kirk did actually have a pretty good year. And then, of course, Justin Jefferson, one of the best receivers in all of football, close to that 2,000-yard mark. And he's super highly anticipated this year. I think he's #1 in a lot of fantasy football drafts. So, again, there's that. Also, Dalvin Cook, like I said, is not on the team anymore. So you have Alexander Madison there, but he also had a decent year last year as well. And then Patrick Peterson had a good year last year as well, but he's gone, and Kendricks, he's also gone. Just to kind of highlight this, though, Kirk did an okay job at actually distributing the ball to other people. It's just Jefferson is so good. That's why the difference is that big. But speaking of other receivers, I do want to kind of zoom out of here a little bit. We're going to go over the depth chart for this year. So Kirk Cousins, Alexander Madison, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, KJ Osborne, DJ Hawkinson. Jordan Addison is someone I want to highlight for this part real quick because the Vikings did play their preseason game, I think, 2 days ago at the time recording this, and Addison did have a couple plays. He had a crazy toe tap catch that they called incomplete, which that was the regular season. That would have been reviewed, and that would have been a catch. That was an incredible catch. But Jordan Addison, I think, is going to be very good. I mean, he does have Jefferson over him, so it might be tough to get, I guess, a whole lot of productivity. But Jefferson's going to be moving the defense away in some parts, so they will definitely be able to find ways to get Addison involved. Osborne also, I think he's pretty underrated. He's not a bad receiver at all. He had some great plays for him last year. So Vikings offense, I like it a lot going into this year. We are now going to talk about the Vikings defense, though, and so there are some things to consider here. First, let's talk about the good things, though. You re-signed Danielle Hunter. That's a huge re-signing. Definitely a good move. Harrison Phillips. You have Marcus Davenport. He's pretty good. Harrison Smith, the leader of that defense for sure. And then also you get Byron Murphy from the Cardinals. It's a big, big signing for you. You lose Patrick Peterson. You're already kind of weak there in the secondary. So Byron Murphy, that's a big signing. Definitely a nice move. Other than that, you have Jordan Hicks. I think Brian Osmosa is pretty good. But after that, it gets a little sketchy. Andrew Booth, who's listed behind Caleb Evans, he kind of got cooked a little bit for a touchdown against Seattle. And there's not a lot of guys I trust in this secondary for the Vikings, other than Harrison Smith and Byron Murphy. I do think Cam Bynum is pretty good, but I do want to highlight Lewis Cine. I'm not sure how to say his name, honestly, but he has had a pretty good training camp. I believe he broke his leg last year, I think, but he's back. He made some great plays in training camp. Had a few interceptions, really all over the field, kind of making tackles, making plays. So I think that is a guy who can have some very meaningful minutes for you on defense. And I think that's the big thing for the Vikings here, is that you just need guys to step up. Because you've made the offseason moves, I think, that definitely will help you out. But you still need guys to step up and kind of fill up some of the holes there on defense, because it's not going to be the best defense in the NFL. But something I do want to highlight is you got Brian Flores, who I think was in Pittsburgh last year. He's an excellent defensive coordinator, and he will definitely be able to put some of these guys who might not have, the biggest skill set in positions to make plays and to get stops, because that's just what he does. He's a great defensive coordinator. I think that's very big for you. Even kind of, I wouldn't say it's similar to the Bengals, but, the Bengals have Lou Anarumo as their defensive coordinator. And, with guys like Eli Apple in there, who's, like a pretty good corner. He's not great, but, he had some great plays for the Bengals because he was in a great system. And they did put kind of him in positions to win and, make plays. So I do think it can be a similar kind of impact there in Minnesota with Brian Flores. But the defense, to a certain degree, is going to struggle because there is only so much you can do with the defensive scheme and all that kind of stuff. But again, you never know. The Vikings offense is super, super good. You're going to have to try and outscore your opponent some games because this defense, going up against some really high-powered offense, it's probably not going to be able to get a whole lot of stops. That's just kind of the reality of it. But, when you have this offense right here, that's a very, very good offense. One of the best in the NFL, in my opinion. Kirk Cousins, I think, kind of gets too much hate sometimes. He's not a bad quarterback, and I liked watching him in that quarterback show on Netflix. If you haven't seen that, go watch it. It's really cool. The highlights Patrick Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and Marcus Mariota last year in the NFL. And Kirk's like a really likable guy, too. He's honestly pretty funny. But all that aside, I do like the Vikings offense a lot. Justin Jefferson, he can definitely get close to that 2,000-yard mark again. Alexander Madison, I do think is a pretty good running back as well. So there's always that too. But Jordan Addison, I think, is going to be a big focus on trying to get him involved and him to make plays because, if he can be a proven threat, it's going to help out Justin Jefferson a little bit too. Although I'm sure he's going to be doubled on most plays anyway. But still, the more threats, the better for that Vikings offense because you're going to need some help kind of putting some points on the board. I don't see that defense getting a ton of stops against some very high-powered offenses, but I am very, very interested to see how this defense progresses over the course of this season with Brian Flores as the defensive coordinator. I think it'll be very interesting because, again, not a bunch of the huge name guys, but I don't know. I want to see how the coaching kind of develops this team right here. But moving on from that, we're going to go over to the schedule, and like I had it for the, who did I just cover? I covered the, who did I just cover? I covered the Packers. For the Packers, I did have it already mapped out. I have the same thing for the Vikings. So again, I do have the Vikings going 10-7 this year. I'm not going to say that that's first or second or third or anything like that yet until the end of the video, but I do have them going 10-7. Again, there are some games that can definitely go either way. I think San Francisco is going to be very, very tough for them. I think Kansas City will be very tough for them. I think the Eagles will be very tough. And I think maybe the Bengals and the Chargers, just because of how good those offenses are, is going to put a lot of pressure on them. I think the Lions will be very tough, but again, that's a divisional game that seems like it's always pretty close. They play each other very well. I wouldn't be surprised if they split. I'm not sure if the Lions will sweep them or if the Vikings will sweep them. I think more realistically they'll probably split. But other than that, I think that you can definitely beat the Falcons. You can definitely beat the... I mean, yeah, you can definitely beat the Buccaneers, I would say, week 1. So, and I think probably the Raiders too. So there are some good matchups for the Vikings. But this season is not going to be like last season, I don't think, where you're going to win a bunch of these games by, one score at the very end. I think you have to play some very good football throughout the game, try and get a lead out there because you can very easily get down with that defense, and that just can't happen this year. So I do like the Vikings still. I think that they might be getting a little underrated because people are kind of like, bashing with that defense and everything. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say they're going to be bad. But I wouldn't say it's going to be maybe as exciting as last year. But I think they're still going to get the job done. And as long as the job gets done, that's all that really matters in the end. So I do have the Vikings going 10-7. Again, comment down below if there's any games you disagree with. I'm sure there are. But just let me know, what games you think the Vikings can actually win. Maybe they upset. Maybe a certain team stomps them that I don't think will stomp them. Anything like that, let me know down below. But that means I have Packers 8-9, Vikings 10-7. I have the Bears and Lions still to go over as far as their stuff. And at the end of the video, I will have my rankings for the division kind of laid out there. But as of right now, that's how I have the Vikings schedule kind of playing out. But I think that Bengals game might be really high scoring. That could be a really fun one to watch. But moving back to the kind of home screen here, like I've done for other teams, I'm going to have a few bold predictions for we'll do 3 players here. I mean, I could do one for Justin. I mean, okay, let's just say like 2,000 yards for Jefferson. Let's just see if he can break it for fun. I'm not sure if I'm going to count that as a prediction. Because in my opinion, I think it's more fun to do some kind of like up in the air players. I want to do a Jordan Addison one. Let's say if Jordan Addison can break like, I don't know, we think, I mean, last year, Thielen had 700. Odds were let's see if Addison can break 800 yards. I think that'd be a very good rookie year for him, considering he's below Justin Jefferson on that depth chart. And, I mean, obviously Jefferson's the number 1 receiver on that team. Let's say 800 yards for Jordan Addison. That'd be a huge year, in my opinion, especially for his rookie year. Another player on offense, I'm not sure about that. Let's go defense. Let's do Byron Murphy, and let's say he gets like, I don't know, 3 or 4 interceptions. We'll say 4. I think that'd be pretty big for him. Kind of stepping in like that leader at cornerback. Patrick Pearson had a pretty good year for the Vikings last year, so there is a role that needs to be filled. We'll see if Byron Murphy can step up and maybe get a few picks this year. So we'll say 4. 4 interceptions for Byron Murphy, and then one more. We could do offense. We could do defense. We could do like Lewis Sign breakout year. That could be kind of fun. We could do Alexander Madison even like 1,200 rushing yards. Dalvin had 1,100. Let's do Alexander Madison like 1,300 rushing yards and see if he can break that. That'd be a big year for him. I think be pretty exciting. So we'll do those as our bold predictions. If you have any as well for any of the teams I cover, but in this case the Vikings, let me know down below any sort of kind of Vikings hot takes, player prediction, anything like that. Just let me know down below. Those are probably, I think, mine, what I'm going to stick with. Yeah, overall, that's kind of how I see the Vikings season going. I do think they are definitely still a playoff team. I think it's very possible there in the NFC. It's not as competitive as the AFC, so 10-7 record, I think it's definitely possible to make the playoffs with that. It's going to be an interesting year for that defense, but again, it's going to depend on how they kind of progress throughout the year. I do think they have a great defensive coordinator, so other than that, it's really just all about kind of how the rest of the team meshes together. Jordan Addison should have a lot of focus on him. I'm pretty excited about that. You lose Thielen, who's a great veteran on that team, and you also lose Dalvin Cook, of course, too. So, bit of a different year, but it's not like their replacements aren't, are like terrible. I mean, Alexander Madison's a pretty good running back. I think he was even fantasy football relevant, like previously, even while Dalvin Cook was there. So, I don't know. I think the Vikings are still a good team. Let me know down below what you guys think, though. If you think that defense is going to be terrible, that's probably valid, but I do think you shouldn't underestimate Brian Flores as a defensive coordinator. I think it's definitely possible there. And the Vikings overall, I think, could surprise some people by not regressing as much as they might be predicted to, especially with defense. But you still have Justin Jefferson on that offense. And as long as you have him, and Kirk, honestly, a decent quarterback, the offense is going to be dangerous. It's going to be a threat. So that's how I see the Vikings season going overall. But of course, anything you guys disagree with, let me know down below. But over to the next team. All right, guys, and the next team I'm going to be talking about is the Bears. Now, the Bears are a very highly anticipated team this year, not only because of Justin Fields, but also, of course, they bring in DJ Moore from Carolina. And all around, I think they're a very exciting young team. They re-signed Cole Kmet too, who's one of those top guys. So to quickly recap last year, and I think the team leaders does that pretty well. Justin Fields did a little bit of everything. I think the crazy thing is that he came very close, I believe, to breaking the rushing yard record for a quarterback in a season, and he didn't really start actually trying to do that until I think 5 or 6 weeks in, which is pretty unreal. And then even passing, 2,242 yards isn't the most passing yards, but the Bears offense really was just a little discombobulated. I think it was still exciting because of Fields, but I don't think they had a clear plan as far as their passing attack went. Darnell Mooney is a good receiver. I just don't think he was cut out for that wide receiver 1 role. I've kind of mentioned that. I'm going to talk about that again and kind of elaborate in a little bit. And yeah, so to recap last year, let's look at rushing. So Justin Fields is their leader there. They had Dave Montgomery. He's now gone. He went to Detroit. I guess we'll get on to the replacements in a little bit. Khalil Herbert had a pretty good year, and he is still there. And then as far as receiving goes, Cole Kmet, Darnell Mooney, St. Brown was big too for him. Then they also get Chase Claypool later in the year as well. So, and then they lost N'Keal Harry, and I want to say they don't have Byron Pringle anymore, but maybe they do. But I know they don't have N'Keal Harry anymore. So the Bears were an exciting team to watch last year, probably the most exciting, whatever their record was, I think 3-14 team I've ever seen because of Fields. And I think it's going to get even more exciting this year. I'm not sure how many wins. We'll get to that. But let's talk about this depth chart over here. So first off, for the Bears, Justin Fields, of course, Khalil Herbert, DJ Moore, Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool, and Cole Kmet. I want to highlight that right now. You also drafted, was it Braxton Jones, I think? Maybe it was not. Okay. I can't think who they drafted. That wasn't Darnell, right? They drafted a lineman, I'm pretty sure, at least for Fields. Maybe I'm wrong. I just sound stupid right now, but I'm pretty sure they drafted someone for Fields. So that's what you want to see, of course, there too. But other than that, so I want to talk about DJ Moore and Darnell Mooney first. So first off, DJ Moore leaving Carolina. I think it's a bummer for Carolina. I do think the whole Panthers got fleeced thing is a little, I don't want to say out there, but a little unfair because DJ Moore's a great receiver, but Carolina has done nothing since Cam left as far as quarterback goes. They had to take a chance and trade up for a for sure quarterback. So I'm fine with that trade. I love DJ Moore, but it is easier to find better receivers than a franchise quarterback. So I'm fine with that. I do think it benefited both sides a lot. I think Bryce Young will be pretty good for Carolina, and I think DJ Moore is the wide receiver 1 Fields has been needing since he came into the league. And I want to talk about Darnell Mooney as well. We'll go back to DJ Moore in a second. I want to talk about Darnell Mooney as well. Darnell Mooney is a great receiver. Do not get me wrong. but I don't think he's a wide receiver 1, or at least not yet. I think last year he had a lot of hype on him, like the whole Fields to Mooney connection. And I think it was a little unfair to Mooney because like he's a good receiver, but he's just not wide receiver 1 in my opinion. I think DJ Moore is a more solidified, proven wide receiver in the NFL. I think Mooney was asked to do a bit more than he's ready for, and it kind of showed. It just didn't work well with the Bears. However, and I've talked about this before, and I will say it again right now, Darnell Mooney as a wide receiver 2 is a much different story because he's already a pretty good wide receiver, and he did have some decent plays as a wide receiver number 1. But wide receiver 2, he can really thrive there, like really thrive there. I think he's a big threat there. I think that really provides a lot more consistency across all the wide receivers on the Bears. So that's a big move. Not only just getting DJ Moore, but having Mooney in a role where he can actually kind of impact in a bigger positive way, I think is huge for the Bears. DJ Moore, like I mentioned, he's a proven wide receiver. The dude's got 1,000 yards, it seems like almost every season, I think except for last year. And he's had some bad quarterbacks. I mean, he's had some bad quarterbacks he's played with. So Moore is a great receiver. And actually, at the time of recording this, I want to say an hour ago, he had like a 65-yard screen pass he ran in for a touchdown. DJ Moore did. So that was pretty big for the Bears. And I think Fields also, Fields also turned around and threw another screen pass to Khalil Herbert, who took another like 56 yards for a touchdown. So let's be real here. Fields, like, his stats are going to look a little inflated. I'm not hating on him. That's just the facts. He threw the ball like 2 yards. But again, though, something to talk about there is that the Bears offense looks a little more kind of fluid. So that's already better there. Kind of the weapons spread out a little bit, making some plays happen. Already looks way better for the Bears. I know Fields isn't making all these crazy passes, but to just have a proven offense that at least your quarterback feels comfortable in, because it's still just preseason, that's big for the Bears, because I think Fields felt very uncomfortable running for his life, not confident of his throws in the past, but now you got a big receiver like Moore there. I mean, you have another year under your belt. I would hope Fields has some more confidence coming into this year. I think it'll be a very big year for the Bears. Honestly, though, I don't like Chase Claypool. I don't think he's going to be a big weapon for them. I think Claypool kind of had his kind of shining moment. I don't think he's a great receiver other than that, honestly. I think he has a lot of great physical attributes. But other than that, I don't see it translating very much to the field. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I am wrong, but I don't see it. I'd rather have St. Brown in there instead. So that's just my opinion. Maybe Chase Claypool proves me wrong, but to me, I'd rather have St. Brown in there than Chase Claypool. Cole Kmet, though, had a good year last year. I think they just re-signed him as well, but that Fields to kind of Kmet connection got a bit better as the year went on, and honestly, I think Cole Kmet's going to have a pretty good year this year, so very solid there. Overall, the Bears offense, I'm liking what I'm seeing in preseason. Again, it's preseason, not trying to overrate anything, but you do look for those flashes, you do look for those moments, and just improvements all around. I do think we've seen that, so I'm excited to see Fields and the rest of that offense officially week 1 and see like what they can really do there. Next is the defense. So the defense is where we're going to have a bit more of a conversation. First off, let's talk about the good things. So Eddie Jackson's still there, one of your bigger guys, of course. Tremaine Edmonds, you bring in from, I believe it was the Bills last season. That's pretty big. Edmonds is a proven linebacker. He can definitely help you. TJ Edwards still there, of course. You also sign Yannick Ngakoue. Kind of annoyed me a little bit. I want the Panthers to get him. That's a great sign, though. You need a pass rusher. That's a big move, providing some kind of not really depth, but just a big threat on that defensive line. So the Bears defense, and Jaquan Brisker as well. I don't want to forget him. He's pretty good, too. Other than that, though, I do think there are some holes on this defense. And I think that might show as the season goes on. Some of the lack of experience some players might have. But again, you did make good moves, bring in leaders like Tremaine Edmonds and like Yannick Ngakoue. And you still have Eddie Jackson too. I just think it's going to take some more time. And I've mentioned this. I think it was my defensive? I can't remember if it was my defensive prediction. One of my tier list videos I talked about this. But the Bears and Texans, both, I can talk about both teams for this. They have made some excellent moves, like some really good moves to help turn those teams around, start winning games. You can tell in the building that they have a whole different attitude and that they're switching things around. But for me personally, for both teams, I just don't see it all coming together this year. I think there's still some holes. I think the Bears offense is in a much better spot this year than last year. The Bears defense is in a much better spot than it was last year. But just like as a whole, I don't think it's all there. I think you still need some spots. The secondary, I think, as far as corner goes, a little questionable. Also, Kyler Gordon had a huge hit stick in preseason earlier today. That was a crazy play. But I do think there are some holes at cornerback. And maybe it's just some guys that need to be just prove themselves. And if they do, then the Bears defense will have a different conversation. Maybe they'll be all right. I don't know. But as far as what we know right now, I think it's a little kind of in a gray area. I think they've made excellent moves, and they're going to continue to because Ryan Poles is the GM, and he's shown that he's serious about winning, especially with Fields. So as far as the defense goes, I think it is good, but I don't think all of them are ready quite yet. So I think they're going to struggle throughout the year. I just had to say that right now, so it kind of reflects in like my schedule and stuff I'll talk about in a little bit. I like the Bears. I just don't think it's all there yet. As far as the offense goes, I think you are closer to being all there than the defense is. I think maybe I'm not really sure what that offensive line is looking like. I think like Nate Davis is pretty good. And I cannot remember if you drafted Braxton Jones or Darnell Wright. I think you drafted Darnell Wright. I'm pretty sure, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure it's Darnell Wright though. And you've proven that you're going to win behind Fields. Like you want to win with him. If Fields struggles very badly this year, it's going to be an interesting conversation next offseason as far as, you know, where we're going to go from there as far as the Bears. But the offense is in a much better spot. I think this year you can seriously win some games with this offense. I just think the defense might be holding you back a little bit from that. And we're going to talk about that. Let's go to the schedule. So the Bears schedule, and again, I already have it kind of mapped out over here. And some of the games, again, can go either way, like I've mentioned for other teams. But let's talk about the games I think the Bears can definitely win. Let's start with those. I think they can definitely beat Tampa Bay. I think they can definitely beat, I want to say Washington, but it'll be pretty close. I believe that was the game that came down to the end last year during a night game as well. I think they can definitely beat the Saints. I think they can definitely beat the Cardinals, probably the Falcons. And then as far as division goes, split one, win one as far as all that goes. Games, I think they're really going to struggle, though. I do think they're going to struggle against the Denver Broncos. I think they're going to struggle against the Chiefs. And they might struggle against the Chargers, too. And maybe even the Packers. That defense is pretty good. But, again, we got to look at the offenses because the Vikings could give the Bears some problems. They have a very good offense. That game might have literally zero defense played, the Vikings and Bears games. The Lions, very, very good offense. I think the Panthers could, but Bryce Young is so unproven as of right now that I'm not even going to talk about that game because I don't really know. Chiefs, it might get ugly. I'm not going to lie, that one might really get ugly. The Denver game could get ugly because they have such a good defense and they could have such a good offense, but I don't know if they will or not. So, again, a lot of these can go either way, but I do have the Bears going 7-10. Maybe that's too many wins. Maybe that's not enough wins. I don't know. In my ranking teams tier list, I had them in the 5 to 7 win range kind of window, and I have them on the upper end of that. I think they can definitely win 7 games, and you gotta temper your expectations for the Bears. They're still a young team. They still aren't totally complete, but you do want to see improvement this year. And I think 7-10 is definitely an improvement from last year. I think that if the Bears can go at least 7 or 8 wins this year, I mean, I think you're in a good spot next year. I think you're in a really good spot. You're having some very optimistic conversations about Fields, about that offense, about that young defense. I think that is kind of where the Bears should be aiming this year. And again, there are a lot of games that can go either way, especially those divisional games as far as the Vikings go, or even Detroit, or even the Packers. I think any team in there, that division's up for grabs. That is nobody's division right now, in my opinion. I think I do have a winner, but if the Bears kind of come together sooner than I think they will, they could win that division. I think any team in there can win that division. So that's a big kind of part of that schedule as well. I think the Browns game will be pretty good. I think that's a pretty similar kind of, I mean, I guess topic, I guess, for this year for both those teams. Kind of like that quarterback, and the new additions to the offense with like I think maybe a sneaky good defense. I'm not really sure. I would say the Browns defense is better than the Bears, but just I think that'll be a pretty good game. But yeah, so again, I think it's going to be back and forth throughout the year, but if you can get 7 wins, it's a big win for Fields. I think that's a really big win for Fields. That shows definite improvement. You're committed to him. That's what I want to see from the Bears this year. So let me know down below what games you agree or disagree with. You know, if Bears fans have high expectations, that's cool. Let me know down below. I am totally open-minded when it comes to that. You don't have to come yelling at me or anything, you know? Like, I want Fields to succeed. I like DJ Moore. So just let me know as far as that goes what you disagree with. Maybe disagree with the defense, maybe the offense, maybe, I don't know. Just let me know. But that's kind of how I see the season going. As far as the bold predictions go, like I've done for each team, I'm going to choose 3 players. As far as stats go, I want Fields to break 3,000 passing yards. That's 800 more than last year. You got DJ Moore on the team now. I think it's definitely doable. As far as rushing goes, Fields, you can do whatever you want. I'm not even going to set a prediction for that, honestly. I just want to see some big passing improvements for the Bears, especially Fields. So we're going to say Fields, 3,000 plus passing yards. We're going to do DJ Moore, we'll say 1,100 yards. I think it's definitely possible. So we'll say 1,100 receiving yards for DJ Moore, 3,000 plus passing for Fields, and we'll say Kmet with even like, I don't know, 544 last year. I don't even want to say 650 this year for Kmet, about 100 more. How many touchdowns did he get? Let's do a touchdown one too. Cole Kmet, 544 and 7 touchdowns. Well, I did not realize he had that many. I'm going to guess probably less touchdowns with DJ Moore on the team now, and the offense looking a bit different overall. So we'll say like 5 touchdowns, but 650 yards for Cole Kmet as far as predictions go. So those are my 3 predictions. Bold or not, I don't really know, but that's what I want to see from the Bears this year. I think if you're anywhere in that ballpark as far as Fields goes, you're looking real good and you're real confident at the end of this year heading into the next season. I think it's going to be a slow process for the Bears, but you're heading in the right direction for sure. But again, 7-10 for the season. And then over to the final team. And now the final team is the Lions, and man, am I excited to talk about the Lions. So first off, last year, Jared Goff had a pretty good year, 4,438 yards, super high-powered offense. Jamal Williams had over 1,000 yards, and I believe he was the touchdown leader last year for the Lions. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 1,161 receiving yards, and then Alex Anzalone, I believe that's how you say his name, 125 tackles. And then Kirby Joseph, 4 interceptions. And man, okay, I'm not gonna lie, I'm really excited to talk about the Lions. So first off, Jared Goff, like I said, pretty good year. 29 touchdowns? Yeah, 29 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Rushing wise, Williams and Swift both gone. I can assure you we'll get to running backs. Just wait there. Amon-Ra St. Brown, like I said, pretty good year. Khalif Raymond, they just re-signed. He had a pretty good year as well. Chark is now gone. He's in Carolina. But again, the Lions, you know, they've got a lot going for them. So I do think last year was an exciting year for the Lions just because it showed where this team is headed. So even though they didn't make the playoffs last year, you know, I think it's pretty exciting this year. I think after last year, Lions fans were maybe a little bummed, no playoffs. But I think it was very clear this team is headed in a great direction. Dan Campbell is doing a great job. And yeah, let's just get in the depth chart because honestly, I can't really wait, keep talking about all the... Why in the world do I always do that? Okay, there we go. So, for this year, you have Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Marvin Jones, Sam Laporta. Let's start Jared Goff like I kind of said. So, Jared Goff last year had a great year. He did a great job giving the ball to really guys all over the field. Amon-Ra St. Brown the most, but again... he spread it to, like we said before. I mean, they had Hawkinson, then of course he left. But Chark had an okay year. Khalif Raymond had a pretty good year. Chark was hurt, though, I believe, for a lot of that. So, again, Goff, he did a very good job as far as that goes. We'll get to running back. Amon-Ra St. Brown, like we said, pretty good year. The dude's a stud. I don't expect anything else from him. I mean, I think it's going to be the same thing year after year. He's a great receiver. Marvin Jones back in Detroit after he was just in Jacksonville. And now he's back. He's a great, very solid veteran receiver right there. So, and he's already been there. So, you know, kind of cool he's back. So then let's go back up to running back and go back down. So running back, Jahmyr Gibbs. Actually, hold on. Dave Montgomery from the Bears, you bring him in. Good veteran running back. Definitely some nice depth there at running back. But Jahmyr Gibbs, he was taken very high overall. I believe it was 12th. Kind of shocked everybody. But the Lions front office looked pumped in the draft room to land this guy. So after that, people were kind of thinking like, what's Jahmyr Gibbs going to be doing this year for them to be that excited about landing him, especially since the Lions traded back originally and then later said that they would have been comfortable taking Gibbs that high up as well. So they have big plans for this guy. They played preseason last night. Gibbs had a couple really good runs, I would say, for probably close to first downs. But his biggest play was an 18-yard pass on kind of a broken play. He caught it, ran for a little bit, then got tackled. And he also did pretty well blocking as well as far as pass protection goes. So Jahmyr Gibbs, I think, is in for a big year. We'll go back to him later, but yeah, big year for him, I think. Jameson Williams, he's hurt almost all last year. Now he's suspended 6 games for gambling. It definitely sucks, but he's still going to be, I think, a great receiver whenever he's back. Just got to get those 6 games out, but still good receiver. Very, very fast. He's going to provide a lot of speed to that offense. But you got to remember that they were very good without him. So they're only going to get better with him in. But again, so Jameson Williams there too. And then they draft Sam Laporta. I'm pretty excited to see him because he, I believe, is from Iowa, I think. And I think he's at a pretty good training camp, already listed as their starting tight end. So the Lions had a very exciting offseason. They're a very exciting team in general because of the way this team is kind of headed. And let's talk about defense. Defense was a little rough last year. They had some troubles getting some stops. The biggest thing, though, is you got Aiden Hutchinson. The dude's a monster. I would say a much bigger year for his second year. He got better as the year went on, in my opinion. Of course, you had Curry Joseph, who had a good year last year as well. I believe Tracy Walker also had a pretty decent year. We already talked about Alex Anzalone. And then also Jack Campbell. You also draft him. I believe he's also from Iowa. Maybe I just think everyone's from Iowa. And maybe Sam Laporta's not from Iowa either. I'm pretty sure Jack Campbell is, though. And he actually looked pretty good in their preseason game last night as well. Had a few tackles, read the plays pretty well. That's things you always like to see, of course, especially in preseason. Just those flashes from those young guys. Brian Branch kind of fell to them. He had a massive hit stick on somebody last night. So I think he could definitely become a starter or at least provide some meaningful minutes for them down the stretch. And then I think one of the biggest things you did in the offseason, though, especially on defense, was you brought in C.J. Gardner-Johnson from the Eagles. He's a very, very good safety. I believe he was strong safety. They've listed him as cornerback. Maybe he's playing corner. I'm not really sure. But either way, this guy is going to really provide some leadership in that defense. And he's going to make an instant impact. He really is. He's a great player. So that's a big move for them. They avoided a major injury because he did get carted off of the field in training camp a few weeks ago. But it should be all good for week 1. That's all that really matters in the end. So hopefully he's back and healthy pretty soon. But this Lions defense looking a lot better than it was last year. Still not, crazy and one of the best. But it's definitely looking better than last year. And they're definitely making moves to get guys in positions to win. They're drafting well. They're bringing good free agents. I am pretty excited for the Lions. I'm not going to lie. I was very confused with some of those draft picks, like Jahmyr Gibbs, like even Jack Campbell. I was a little kind of, a little unsure. But the Lions look like they may have, really had something in mind they are pretty close to achieving as far as bringing those young guys instant impacts. And I'm excited to see it all go down. I do also just want to highlight, they also drafted Hendon Hooker. Again, Jared Goff's doing a great job, so I'm not sure when we'll ever see Hendon Hooker. But if something crazy happens, maybe like a 49ers QB issue, maybe comes to the game at some point. I don't think he's participating yet because of that ACL tear. So as of right now, they did bring in Teddy Bridgewater as their official backup to Jared Goff. I almost forgot that. I just wanted to mention it. But yeah, Hendon Hooker is another one of their big draft picks. So over to the Lions schedule. They got Chiefs opening night for the 2023 football season. I am super excited. That's a big game, and they have a fairly tough schedule, but this is a good team. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, my record prediction for the Lions is 11-6, winning the division and going to the playoffs. I'm on the hype train. I don't care. Maybe that's out there. I don't care. I want to see it happen. I'm excited for the Lions. I think at the very least they get second in this division. I think they are just too good. I think it's their time. I think they are better than the Packers. I think they're better than the Bears. And I think it's going to show this year in that they're going to make the playoffs. Wild card spot at worst. I think they can definitely win this division that, like I said earlier, is definitely up for grabs. And I'm all in. I'm saying the Lions beat the Chiefs opening night too. You know, people aren't gonna like that. I don't really care. I'm picking the Lions. I think it's super exciting. I think it's gonna be a very high scoring game. Two very good offenses. I'm so excited to see how Jahmyr Gibbs fits in opening night, how Sam Laporta fits in opening night. Amon-Ra St. Brown, of course. It would be so exciting if Jameson Williams was not suspended. That would be so cool to see them all playing together first game of the season. But still, he's still there 6 weeks later. So the Lions offense I like a lot. Other than that Chiefs game, though. So you can definitely beat Atlanta. You can definitely beat Carolina. You can definitely beat Tampa Bay. The Raiders. I think you can beat Chicago. Green Bay at least once. I think you can beat the Vikings at least once. I think you could probably beat the Saints as well. Denver might be tough. Dallas will be tough. Baltimore will be tough. Seattle will be tough. But other than that, man, I think the Lions have some really high potential this year. I mean, if they can win some of these close games down the stretch, they could have a very good record. They're not in the hardest division in the world as far as like how good those other teams are, but the teams are pretty similar, I will say. So, like I said earlier, the division's up for grabs, but I just have the Lions coming down with it. I do think the Lions are going to really show just how many steps they've taken in the last few seasons this year. I think it all comes together for them this year. Maybe not in like a huge playoff run way, but in a making the playoffs and at least making some noise in a major way this year. I think it's there for the Lions. I love that offense. I really do. I'm super excited to see Jahmyr Gibbs, like I said. I think the defense improves a lot. I think Aiden Hutchinson has a huge second year for him. I wouldn't be surprised if Brian Branch becomes a starter at some point. I think he was a bit of a steal. Jack Campbell seemed to be, like I said, reading plays very well last night. So if he can step into that kind of leadership role in defense as a rookie, he's got Alex Angelo in there too. So I like the Lions a lot. I do think ways to slow them down, though, are those really tough defenses, which I know is kind of stupid to say, point out the obvious. But I just have to say it for everybody just to kind of be on the same page. That's how you're going to slow this team down, because their defense is not going to be able to do that as much as some of the better defenses can, if that makes sense. So if the Lions' offense is stopped and they're not consistently, scoring 3 points, 7 points, whatever drive, it's going to be a little tough for them. That's why I think that Baltimore is going to give them some problems. Same with Seattle, same with Denver, same with Dallas. I do think those divisional games, like the Packers, will be tough, like Minnesota will be tough. I think the Lions can sweep the Bears, though. And I'm excited, man. I'm excited for the Lions. I'm a Panthers fan, but I'm really excited for the Lions this season. They have a lot of really exciting players, so it's hard not to like them after they've been terrible for so long. So I do think they make the playoffs this year. 11-6 is a big jump, and maybe it doesn't happen. It probably doesn't happen, but I do think they win this division one way or another. Like I said, I see second place as the worst. I think second place for them will still be a wild card spot. I really do. They almost made it last year, and they weren't even quite ready last year. They've made some great additions. They've drafted well. I think it's time for the Lions to make the playoffs. So I'm predicting a big year from them. Not even a good year, a big year from them. And I do think it is definitely possible. Now, as far as like the bold predictions go, let's say Jahmyr Gibbs 1,500 yards total from scrimmage. So receiving or rushing, I don't care, but 1,500 yards and like 7 touchdowns. I see a huge rookie year for him. They clearly wanted him for a reason. He's going to be used a lot. He's been lined up in the slot. He's been out of the backfield. He's blocked well. I see a huge year for him. So 1,500 yards and those 6 or 7 touchdowns for Jahmyr Gibbs. Amon-Ra St. Brown we could do a prediction for, but honestly, he's already proven. Let's go with Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta, how was the... Oh, yeah, I forgot they had Hawkinson last year. Okay, so then Brock Wright was after that. He had 4 touchdowns, 216 yards. Let's do Sam Laporta, like 450 yards, 2 touchdowns, see if he can get that. That's kind of his prediction. And as far as defense goes, we'll say Aiden Hutchinson, like 15 sacks or something crazy. I mean, I think he's going to have a huge second year. 15 sacks is probably rich. I think it'd be more probably like 12 or 13. But still, I think he can have a very good year. So we're saying around, 15 is kind of the fun number. So we'll just say 15 sacks. I do think more realistic will be a few sacks short of that. But still, Aiden Hutchinson, he's going to be a force in that defense. I think C.J. Gardner-Johnson stepping in there would be huge for him. I think Jack Campbell, I didn't like that pick at first, but I can kind of see how it's fitting in for him. So that's why I'm not an NFL scout, not an NFL GM. We'll see how that goes. But I like the Lions a lot. I think it's all there for them. In order, which you guys have probably realized now by the end of the video, is the Lions, the Vikings, the Packers, and then the Bears. I think it'll all be pretty close, but I see the Lions really coming with it this year. And again, at worst, playoff team. So that is going to do it, though, for my NFC North predictions. These maybe were different than my other ones because they were so bold, but I see the Lions having a big year. Next is the AFC South predictions. That'll be an interesting one. A lot of teams in there kind of on the rise. If you guys enjoyed the video, though, be sure to subscribe to my channel for more NFL videos. I do these. I still have to cover basically all the divisions except for the AFC and NFC North. I'm still going to be doing week picks when the season's going on, along with any NFL news, injuries, teams on the rise, people on the hot seat this year. And then we also do, like I said, tier list videos for NFL stuff. We do NFL quiz videos, and all that kind of stuff. And I also do Madden 24 videos whenever that drops in a couple days. So if any of that sounds interesting, subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. We are close to 500 subscribers, which is really crazy. So thank you guys for that. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.